Nice to meet you too.
So how did your vocation start out?
The first thing that made me ever think about the idea of priesthood was my family. I grew up in a family that is very devout, and I grew up with my father always making sure that we would go to Mass and that we would pray the Rosary each day. But the most important aspect that my family had on my vocation was when we were living in Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, you aren't allowed to practice any other faith other than Islam. So for my family to practice our faith meant we had to do so in secret and in hiding. So it meant that each week we had to go from house to house in order for Mass so that we didn't draw the attention of the authorities. I didn't think much of it at the time. It was only when I became much older that I recognized what my parents had sacrificed for the sake of the faith and for the sake of my sister and I. That they were willing to risk imprisonment or deportation so that they could practice the faith and so that my sister and I could attend Mass and receive the sacraments. And it was because of that dedication, that willingness to actually give their lives over to something greater, that made me think that I wanted to do the same thing, that there are things in life that we should be willing to sacrifice our lives for. Vocation, my own vocation as a priest, but vocation in general to me means our salvation. The vocation that each of us chooses, whatever vocation that may be, is the means by which we seek our salvation. It's the means by which we live out our baptism for the sake of God and for the sake of our own redemption. So whatever we choose, whether it's a priest, whether it's somebody who's married, whether it's in religious life, whether it's as a single person, we choose that because we believe that that is the best way for us to unite ourselves with God.
Did you always want to become a priest? If not, what inspired you to become one?
The first time I really considered priesthood was when I was 14 years old and was here at school. Going to Mass before school, seeing the priest, being at Mass, it made me first think of priesthood above all else. But then as I grew older, I lost interest in that, and there were other things that I wanted to do, and other things I would have preferred to do. But then in my early 20s, I began to think about priesthood again, just privately, and I never really discussed it with anybody. But at that time, other people around me, my friends, and other people that I knew, would say to me or say to my family that I should be a priest. And so I recognized that my own desire to be a priest, coupled with what other people were encouraging me to do, that this may be the vocation. You're welcome. Okay, thank you. You're welcome.